Welcome to your Houston Rewind for May 15th through May 19th. I'm KHOU 11 digital anchor Brandy Smith. We know catching up on the news can be overwhelming, especially in a city like Houston where it never seems to stop. So every weekend, we take this opportunity to fill you in on some of the stories you may have missed. Let's rewind. On Monday, new Katy ISD board members were sworn in after a divisive election. Marcelino Benito took a closer look at the new board and what it could mean for students.
This is a 7-member board and 3 of them are newly elected, so this is bound to have some implications on future votes and decisions. And tonight, some community members are calling these new trustees pack puppets for how they got into office.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Amy Teamy.
I, Amy Teamy.
I, Morgan Calhoun.
I, Mary Ellen Cuzella.
One by one, they took the oath. 3 women with different backgrounds, the district's newest trustees, now on the job. But some community members tell us that isn't sitting well with them.
I was quite disappointed in the election results here. It's just going too extreme. It's becoming too partisan.
Realtor Amy Teamy, stay-at-home mom Morgan Calhoun, and substitute teacher Mary Ellen Cuzella won easily, all endorsed by conservative PAC Texans for Educational Freedom. The group spent thousands on mailers with what opponents say was misleading negative attacks about other, less extreme candidates.
It was a bunch of lies just to get on to a volunteer position. It's just outrageous the amount of money that was spent for a volunteer position.
It's not just parents worried. Some students voiced concerns about what the new board could do on book bans and LGBTQ rights.
It shouldn't be about what political party you are. It is about the students, it's about our education.
How the board will vote on future policy is impossible to predict yet. But tonight, the 3 new trustees voting bloc helped elect Victor Perez as new board president and newcomer Amy Teamy, who will already serve as board vice president.
When you come in underneath these PACs and you take that money, I think you're kind of beholden to them to some degree. They're going to expect something in return. They're going to expect your votes to be a certain way.
We should mention the turnout in Katy ISD this year was the highest ever recorded in their history. Still, only about 5% of eligible voters. We did try to talk to the new trustees tonight, but we were told that was not possible.
90 years old and facing a $58,000 water bill, a Houston woman reached out to KHOU 11 at her wit's end. She says the outrageous bill started coming in about a year ago, and as Zach Tawatari learned, the problem still hasn't been resolved.
Across from her dream home, still being built.
The yellow, I guess, is supposed to let you know it will be cut off if you don't pay that bill.
90-year-old Southside homeowner Naomi Brazel says her most recent water bill
I received on May the 12th, that's a few days ago,
was bigger than you might expect. Way bigger.
$58,000.
It's an issue her son Reginald says started about a year ago. With the trailer Naomi is staying in, also on her family's property during her home renovation.
Originally, it was a default in the trailer that was no one was aware of, and it had something to do with the toilet system, and it was the water just spewing going into the sewage.
At that point, Naomi got her first big bill.
So when she got the first bill over $5,000, you know, that got our attention. We contacted them several times, a contractor also, and tried to get them to help adjust it.
And they say despite the water being cut off, Naomi's bills kept rising. And multiple meter readings appearing to show virtually no change.
If you see the difference in the reading, it's like it doesn't make any sense. You know, the jump from 5,000, 12,000, then to 58,000.
She says she's made lots of calls, but hasn't got any traction.
I've talked to the water company more than 3 times, only by myself, trying to get this settled. And no consideration.
Now she's hoping sharing her story will help bring about some kind of resolution.
And I hope this will be helpful. I hope no one else has to go through what I'm going through, because it's not a good feeling.
Houston Public Works sent a statement to KHOU 11 saying the agency is actively looking into the account and adding, quote, "We will work with the customer to ensure that they are only billed for the amount of water used." The statement also encouraged customers to reach out if they think their water bill is inaccurate. We got an exclusive sneak peek at a survey that shows what Houstonians are most concerned about. The economy tops the list. Jason Miles dug into the longest running metropolitan study of its kind to find out what else is on the mind of Houstonians.
Results of the 42nd annual Kinder Houston Area Survey came out today during this sold-out luncheon.
This survey is extremely important.
But I got a sneak peek at some of the 30-plus pages of data during a sit-down interview with the Kinder Institute for Urban Research's director.
We have done the best that we can to make sure that this survey is truly representative of our entire community. So we carefully selected residents of Harris County to mirror our county's demographics.
Approximately a quarter of this year's survey participants said the economy is the biggest issue facing the Houston region, with only 1 in 4 feeling their financial situation had improved in the past 3 years, and only about half thinking their finances would change for the better in the years to come.
Over 40% of respondents say they could not come up with $400 in an emergency.
Dr. Turley says that's an even bigger issue for blacks and Hispanics compared to whites and Asians.
So there are really significant inequalities that persist in our community.
The vast majority of those surveyed, some 72%, support actions to close income gaps.
About 3,200 people are part of the survey. They'll also participate in new quarterly surveys on various topics, including the upcoming Houston mayoral race. You can dive into all of the data on KHOU.com. Tuesday night, we heard from Houston ISD teachers about their meeting with Texas Education Agency Commissioner Mike Morath. The meeting happened just 2 weeks before the state is scheduled to take over the district. Maria Aguilera talked to teachers to get their takeaways.
Texas Education Agency Commissioner Mike Morath met with Houston ISD teachers just 2 weeks before the agency is set to take over the district. Teachers leaving the almost 2-hour-long meeting did not get the answers they were looking for.
Not much new in the way of information today. Mike Morath was just tap dancing around the answers, giving vague answers, hoping to run out the clock.
I'm very disappointed because I thought that he would be coming with more answers.
It's a meeting educators have been asking for since the takeover was announced 2 months ago.
The teacher should have been the very first stakeholder that should have participated in the interview process.
Teachers who attended the meeting say the commissioner spent a large part of the time going over information they already knew.
There were a lot of questions about funding. What are plans? Are they going to be closed? Are they going to be chartered? None of those were given direct answers.
What are you doing that's going to be different from what already is happening in HISD? And we don't know. That's the elephant in the room.
Their concerns? A lack of transparency in the overall process.
For the sake of our community, our parents, teachers, our district, I do hope that on June 1st that the TEA, Board of Managers, and our new superintendent will pivot to a more transparent, more engaging process.
Teachers say Morath pledged to meet with them again in a year for a follow-up meeting.
We asked the TEA again today for any new information about who will be appointed as a new superintendent and the Board of Managers, but we're told no new information will be released until June 1st. In Houston, Maria Aguilera, KHOU 11 News.
A bill banning race-based hair discrimination in the workplace is waiting on Governor Greg Abbott's signature. Rika Mudaraj shared, even as they wait for that final step, the bill's supporters are celebrating this victory.
I think this is past due. We've been needing this.
Nori Johnson opened her natural hair salon in Edo almost a year ago. She's heard firsthand accounts from customers about their experiences wearing their hair in natural styles like braids, locks, or twists in the workplace.
We have people that say, oh, I don't want it too long, or I don't want it this way. I have to be conservative because I have an interview, or my graduation is coming up and I don't want to be told I can't walk.
Johnson herself understands the significance of the Crown Act, having worked in the medical field before starting her business and facing similar hurdles. Texas would become the latest state to enact the law in a movement inspired by the experience of 2 Houston area students who were told to cut their hair or be disciplined. This year, Dove co-commissioned a study with LinkedIn and found, among other things, that black women's hair was 2.5 times more likely to be perceived as unprofessional, and more than 20% of the women surveyed had been sent home from work because of their hair, including Sydney Johnson.
Actually, my very first job, I worked at a theme park, and I actually was sent home one time because of the color of my hair. I had braids, and it was a red color highlighted throughout the braids, and I was actually sent home because of it. My hair was neat, it was done. I looked professional, in my personal opinion. And for me to have 8 colored braids throughout my head, and that be the reason that I was sent home, it just felt a little extreme.
Nori Johnson hopes the bill changes attitudes about what it means to look professional and helps bring more customers into her salon.
You can watch continuing coverage of the Texas legislative session wherever you're watching this, and of course, we'll post any updates on khou.com/politics. One of Houston's most iconic murals is getting a makeover. Jason Miles spent the day with the original artist and the volunteers giving it a refresh.
The idea was, let's paint an awesome mural that celebrates Houston.
A decade after the artist known as Gonzo247 created one of the city's most photographed murals as part of a marketing campaign off Market Square Park downtown.
It really became an icon for the city. It became a destination.
He and others are inspired to restore it, one stroke at a time.
What do you think of it?
I love it.
Norma Ponce usually works at a desk for Houston First Corporation, but was recruited along with others to help get the refresh underway.
It's fun and gets you out of the office for a little bit.
Originally meant as a temporary installation, the mural took off thanks in large part to social media, but some of its vibrancy has since faded.
The paint being used for this refresh should keep its color a lot longer. It's exterior latex instead of simple spray paint.
We told ourselves, if we get 6 months out of it, job well done. Well, 6 months has turned into 10 years.
Gonzo247 will use a crane to reach higher areas once work closer to the ground is complete. Though no timeline is set, he expects what is perhaps his most recognized mural to look better than ever very soon.
Obviously, this isn't the first mural ever painted in Houston, but this mural really helped open the door to more blockbuster murals in downtown area.
In downtown Houston, Jason Miles, KHOU 11 News.
The morning after Texas lawmakers debated a bill banning COVID vaccines in cows, one of them vented to KHOU 11. Senator Roland Gutierrez says he's frustrated. This bill, based on a TikTok conspiracy theory, is being moved along as nothing gets done on proposed gun legislation. Anieli Ruiz spoke to Senator Gutierrez, who says his colleagues are wasting time and taxpayer money.
I don't know what kind of crazy train these folks are on.
Senator Roland Gutierrez from San Antonio upset over a new bill filed last week.
A bill that is a TikTok conspiracy.
He's talking about SB 2632. The bill says it would prohibit the sale of any meat or food derived from livestock injected with mRNA vaccine unless the product's label includes a notice.
That would require meatpacking companies to label if a cow took a COVID vaccine.
You heard right. The bill wants to ban companies from selling products that have received the COVID-19 vaccine.
The cattle, the farming industry, the ranching industry, they're not vaccinating cows with COVID vaccines. It just doesn't exist.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture agrees with Gutierrez. USDA says it has not approved and does not have any vaccines under trial to vaccinate livestock for COVID-19, and there are no licensed mRNA vaccines for COVID-19 in animals. The National Cattlemen's Beef Association says there are no current mRNA vaccines licensed for use in beef and cattle in the U.S. A doctor at UT Health says
cattle aren't getting any COVID vaccine. The mRNA just wouldn't make it past your GI system, even if it lasted in the cattle meat, which it doesn't.
Gutierrez is not just angry because of the time it's wasting.
I just find it ironic that the party that is trying to ban TikTok is espousing TikTok conspiracies through legislation.
He's upset the bill was allowed to be filed weeks after the filing deadline. He says Dan Patrick allowed the bill to rush through the process, but didn't give the same priority to the mourning families in Uvalde fighting for change.
It is obvious to me here that we are living in a time in Texas where the most ridiculous conspiracy theories take precedence over children dying in our schools, in our malls. The proliferation of guns is of no consequence to them. It simply doesn't matter to them. It's absurd.
We're told lawmakers added an amendment to make sure fruits and plants aren't injected with COVID vaccines. That is also not something that is happening. Houston Methodist patients have questions after getting billed for online messages to their doctors. The hospital says as of last September, if a response required medical expertise, it would be sending a bill. Sherman Chow got answers.
The Houston Methodist website says that for most Medicare and Medicaid patients, it's nothing. For others, $3 to $6. For those with private insurance, it's similar to a copay, maybe $10 to $20. And for those with deductibles, an average amount is $65. So, charges are for medical advice messaging. What's that? Houston Methodist VP Amy Premitz explains.
Anytime there could have been a doctor's visit required to treat the patient, those are the types of services.
Like a new issue, adjusting medications, chronic disease check-in, a flare-up, or completing a form. The other component?
The provider has to spend at a minimum 5 minutes in response to the patient in order for a charge to be possible.
What does not count? Things like prescription refills, scheduling appointments, and
if the patient's calling with a question in regards to a follow-up or a follow-up question from a visit that they just had with the provider, that would not result in a MyChart.
all this is because patients are asking more of their healthcare providers online.
In the grand scheme of things, we only bill for about 2% of our total MyChart messages that come in on a monthly basis. And in a monthly basis, we receive about 48,000 MyChart inquiries from our patients. So again, very small majority or very small percentage of the charges or the visits actually result in a charge back to our patient.
That 48,000 includes all MyChart inquiries like appointment scheduling, bill inquiries, and prescription refills.
Sherman found out MD Anderson and Memorial Hermann do not charge to answer online questions. A high school softball team from Cypress is refusing to lose during a historic season. It's a team effort led by two similar seniors. Jason Bristol introduced us.
They sound alike because they are alike. Twins, Emily and Casey Simmons. Always encouraging, instructing, and leading the way for the Langham Creek High School softball team.
Good job, Kayla.
Under the direction of Coach Michelle Biffle.
It's the best feeling ever to know that your program is got them leading the front.
Okay, here we go.
Emily, the star pitcher and home run hitter.
Great job.
Casey, her catcher with a near perfect fielding percentage. They have some differences. Casey in awe of Emily's power.
She has the ultimate power just to put it over the fence anytime she touches the ball.
While Emily admires Casey's toughness behind the plate.
Hold it, you're good.
Squatting all game. I don't know how she does it.
The result, winning the first district title in program history, with state in sight.
I think Emily and Casey set the tone.
Next year, these sisters will play college ball together at Southeastern Oklahoma State. And yes, they were a package deal.
She's my forever roommate.
And it seems like they've made another deal. Not to talk about playoffs, rather just enjoy their final season of high school ball.
We're just playing our game with people we love.
Here we go, one more.
And it shows. Since twins grin when they win. Jason Bristol, KHOU 11 News.
Emily and Casey's younger sister is also on the team. And by the way, Langham Creek beat Waco's Midway on Thursday to advance. They're going to play again on May 27th. On Thursday, Santa Fe High School unveiled a new memorial as we marked 5 years since the shooting that killed 8 students and 2 teachers. The bronze statue, called Warrior Spirit, honors those 10 lives lost on May 18th, 2018 with 10 feathers. Several of the victims' families told us they couldn't be there because it was just too painful. They're still waiting for justice 5 years later because the accused shooter has yet to go to trial. Grace White explored where that case stands now.
The case is really at a standstill, waiting on the accused shooter's competency to be restored. It's a process we learned could continue if necessary for the rest of his life. Frustrating victims.
And we get no closure, no nothing
even still 5 years later.
It's been a slow road to justice for the families of the 10 victims killed and 13 injured in the Santa Fe shooting. The accused shooter, Demetrius Begorchis, a 17-year-old junior at the time, was arrested the day of the shooting. But 5 years later, he's not in jail. He's here at the North Texas State Hospital, declared mentally incompetent to stand trial.
There's been progress since he first got there. I will say that the last year or two, that progress it stalled, it plateaued.
Nicholas Pale is his defense attorney.
He can seem to be having a sort of normal conversation, and then the conversation just goes off the rails into bizarre hallucination-based fantasy.
And Pale told us his client was having those hallucinations the day of the shooting. But he told us in the years leading up to the tragedy, the teen was not medicated and not receiving treatment for mental health.
As he got more ill, his symptoms looked a lot to an outside observer like normal teenage behavior, mood swings and such that you write off as teenager, and it's how a lot of red flags were missed.
Now, every 12 months, he's evaluated for mental competency to stand trial.
It's important to know that the issue of competency is different than the issue of sanity. The issue of competency is whether the defendant can understand the proceedings against them and whether he's able to assist his lawyers in his defense.
Although it's rare, Galveston County DA Jack Rohde says there have been other cases in Texas that have had competency restored after years. And he's not giving up.
I would want our community to know and our victims to know that we are as committed now as we ever have been to get this case tried and to see justice done.
Just 2 days ago, the new judge on the case, Lonnie Cox, signed an order committing the accused shooter to the state hospital for another year. He'll be there until at least February the 1st. In Santa Fe, Grace White, KHOU 11 News.
When a Gringos customer realized the tip he left had been changed, he reached out to law enforcement. What investigators found was a scam involving at least 4 people and credit card fraud. Aniela Ruiz explained how it all went down.
A typical meal here at the Gringos restaurant in Spring turned much more expensive for a few customers after investigators say 4 waiters were.
But they put another tip amount in there and they tipped themselves.
But that's not all. These waiters were allegedly taking customers' credit card information and on the same day making multiple charges on the card.
The tabs were being altered, like they would take items of food that were ordered off of the tab and make that amount added into their tip so that they were walking out with more cash.
Constables got the call from a customer. They did some investigating and charged 24-year-old James Green Jr. with theft aggregate. When they went to arrest him,
That first one tried to run from us that day and chased him down.
But court records say Gringos continued to dig and found that 3 other people were also allegedly involved. 25-year-old Michael Daniels, 21-year-old Ian Sampson, and 27-year-old Brenda Turcios. They've been charged with engaging in organized criminal activity and have active warrants for their arrest.
These thieves, knowing that they have a camera over them, they still brazenly do this, but they get caught.
And although investigators say things like this can't really be prevented, they ask people to keep tabs on their bank and credit card statements. Make sure you're reviewing those transactions.
It takes 30 seconds. Do it. It's very, it's a peace of mind, and it makes you feel more secure in what's happening on your credit cards. And so just pay attention and be very diligent.
If you ate at Gringos in the past few weeks, make sure to check your receipts and bank statements to see if the amount matches. If you find something that doesn't look right, contact Precinct 4 investigators. The countdown to the 2026 World Cup is on. Houston's playing a big part as one of the 16 host cities. Soccer fans are gearing up for one of the world's biggest sporting events. Ugochi Aloka looked into the meaning behind Houston's logo.
Houston Sports Authority revealed the logos first on KHOU 11 Morning News today.
The first to have them. You guys are the first.
Really excited. Explain We Are 26.
So really it's a collaboration, right? Because this will be the biggest event with 3 countries, 16 cities, 48 teams, 104 matches. It's expanded. And so I think FIFA wanted to give every city a chance to be part of it, have their own color palette. So ours is this blue color, which I'm very excited about.
You saw some of our morning crew decked out in new FIFA World Cup scarves. Here's a closer look. This is the new 2026 Houston host city logo. Organizers tell us the logo is unique and truly highlights our city's innovative, diverse, and authentic spirit. All of this is a part of FIFA's new campaign, We Are 26. And the countdown is on. In 3 years, Houston will host possibly 6 matches here at NRG Stadium. In addition to drawing in millions of visitors, the matches are also projected to bring in over $1 billion for the area. It's the latest high-profile event for Houston. We've just had the Final Four, and we've got the College Football National Championship next year. So we're outside NRG Stadium where some of the games will be played in 2026. As for those new World Cup game logos, you can expect to see them all throughout downtown on buildings and sidewalks very soon. Reporting from NRG Stadium, Ugochi Iloka, KHOU 11 News.
Whether it's spaghetti, tortellini, ravioli, there's something special about digging into a plate of freshly made pasta. And now a Katy couple is making it their business to share that homemade goodness.
So everybody has a bottle of water, everybody has a measuring cup.
You'll find Giancarlo Danjoy in his element in the kitchen.
My father-in-law, her dad, is a master chef, and he got his master's in Italian cuisine, and he taught me how to make pasta 7 years ago because my mother-in-law won a KitchenAid from Members Choice Credit Union.
It's so random.
5 years ago, he and his wife Raina started Danjoy's homemade pasta.
Anything you can think of with pasta, that's what we do.
As a way to share their knowledge with others.
We have kids camp, it's a great date night, team building.
Everything's customizable, everything's private. We don't have a minimum, I would say max about 20 people.
The day I stopped by, 7 people had signed up to learn how to make the dough from scratch with just semolina and water, then shape it with different tools.
It's just something that brings all the families and friends together, something that you can do. It's very hands-on, and the ingredients are so simple, so I think a lot of people take away that that's something they could actually do at home.
But before they head out, the group comes together to enjoy the pasta. They mixed, kneaded, rolled, formed, and topped with Danjoy's homemade sauce.
We want them to start making pasta at home, with their family, with their kids, with their loved ones.
It was really incredible. Just had a really fun time hanging out with our friends and making pasta. It's a lot harder than it looks.
Booking a class is easy though. You can do it online at danjoyshomemade.com or by emailing Giancarlo. Classes can cost as little as $15 or as much as $150, depending on what and how much you want to make.
My daughter has a birthday coming up. She loves all things pasta, so what a fun experience to get to create something that you enjoy eating.
We work around your schedule. We can start at any time. We have classes any day.
Giancarlo hopes the techniques his father-in-law instilled in him
We have a big future planned out.
will help this family-owned business bring more families together.
I'm just really excited to see where they end up 10 years from now.
Exploring more hidden gems is easy. You can check them out wherever you're watching this or go to khou.com/hidden gems for our complete list. KHOU 11 Investigates continues to follow the issues that plagued the Harris County elections in November. Our team's been fighting for records to learn more about what went wrong and why there was a low supply of ballot paper at some voting locations. At first, Harris County denied our requests. Then the state ruled they should be made public. And then the county sued to block their release. Finally, Jeremy Rogalski got some of what we asked for.
The records do not answer the main question: how many voters were turned away because of paper ballot shortages? But as you'll see, they do reveal a lot about what was going on behind the scenes on Election Day. For the November election, Harris County had a real-time system to track the amount of ballot paper used. But it didn't work. How do we know? Take a look at this report written by the Harris County Elections Administration Office in November and recently released to KHOU. It says that tracking system was effectively unusable for ED Election Day because it ran at a fraction of its normal pace due to an overloaded volume of queries being run. As for the initial supply of ballot paper, Harris County did an analysis that said in a perfect world, to account for spoilage issues like paper jams, 157 voting locations should have started with more paper on Election Day. County election records show 47 of those got extra deliveries, but they do not include cases like this election judge told us.
I had to send him to neighboring precincts that did have paper.
Some election workers had to borrow from their neighbors.
It basically became a game of survivor at that point.
How many paper deliveries were there overall? There are records for 97 locations, but the county concedes some of its records are incomplete. Take this delivery log spreadsheet. The employee who released it told us, because of the rush of ballot paper during the 4 to 7 p.m. hour, we could not keep up with help tickets and ran out, so they did not get entered into the spreadsheet. This graphic from Harris County shows that end-of-day voting rush. Below it reads, it can become a logistical near impossibility to make runs to locations which are overwhelmed by or after 5 p.m. Here's an example of that logistical mess. A technician arrived at 5:30 for more paper but wasn't dispatched out until 7:45. By then, it wasn't needed. We tried to ask Elections Administrator Clifford Tatum about all of this, but his office declined our on-camera interview request.
We are upgrading election systems.
In April, he did outline system upgrades before the Harris County Election Commission. Those include software updates, improved ratios of call center operators and field technicians, a digitized inventory system for paper and equipment, and a ticketing system to track calls and issues more efficiently.
We're able to dispatch those tickets. We're able to see that ticket get closed, and we're able to monitor the status of that ticket until it's closed.
Back to the main question, how many voters were turned away on Election Day? Again, none of the records we've received so far can answer that. However, the county referred us to a press release it sent out back in April. It said based on an analysis of voter check-in times, a small fraction, approximately 3% of vote centers, actually experienced a gap in voting. Again, we're still waiting on some records we requested, including emails and text messages from Administrator Tatum around Election Day. Months later, Harris County has not released them.
To see what else our investigators are working on, go to khou.com/investigates. The parents of a Clear Creek ISD 6-year-old are upset after they say their daughter was told to change out of her dress even though she was wearing shorts underneath. Zach Tawatari spoke with the girl's parents, who say they're concerned this happened at such a young age.
That girl's parents tell me they sent their daughter to school in one of her favorite dresses, and she came home wearing jeans. Parent Jonathan Alexander says his 6-year-old daughter loves wearing dresses to school, but he's speaking out about an incident he says took place earlier this week at Clear Lake City Elementary School.
All they're saying is that my daughter does not sit in the chair properly, and she does lean back, and apparently the shorts that she's wearing are too loose, so you're able to see her underwear.
According to Alexander and his wife Christy, their daughter, who's in kindergarten, wears dresses to school nearly every day.
Ever since the beginning of the year, my daughter has worn dresses. She wears shorts or tights or something under the dress.
They say a teacher's aide spoke to their daughter earlier in the week about the dress she was wearing. The parents say she continued to wear dresses, and a few days later, says Christy, their daughter came home in jeans.
The first thing I asked was, did you have an accident? No, ma'am. Okay, why did you change clothes? The teacher made me change clothes because I was running around or playing and didn't sit properly.
The next day, the parents say they were sent this message by the teacher over an app used for parent-teacher communication. It says in part, she was just trying to maintain student dignity. Clear Creek ISD sent us a statement that says CCISD is not able to comment on student matters. However, the district will continue to reinforce with staff, paraprofessionals, and substitute teachers what the dress code policy is in Clear Creek ISD. Jonathan says he believes that there's nothing wrong with the way his daughter wears dresses.
I do not believe that any 6-year-old is looking at another 6-year-old like that.
Jonathan and his wife tell me this is their daughter's first year at the school and they plan to keep her here. In Clear Lake, Zach Tawatari, KHOU 11 News.
A battle is brewing over property in historic downtown Richmond. The county wants the land to put a parking lot in. Lauren Tallarico reached out to both sides of this fight.
South 5th Street in Richmond is lined with old oaks and homes older than a century.
And we're like, what is going on?
But recently, property owners in this block have been notified by letter the county is thinking of taking their land.
Notice of intent to enter the land for survey purposes.
Rita Cinquemani is one of those owners. She and her husband are landlords to 4 businesses on this property. They called the county to find out what was going on.
Told us that they wanted to turn it all into a parking lot.
Have you heard the words eminent domain at all?
Oh yeah, that's what's been thrown around there. They can walk on your property and say, guess what? We want it. And you're out.
My feelings, I feel violated and I feel scared.
This is Rita's husband, Paul. Both are counting on the rental income from their property for their futures.
If it were a highway coming through, but we're hearing parking lot, give me a break.
Richmond resident Jillian Reed.
Save it, don't pave it.
Has started a petition to keep the county out. She says she got involved after trying to buy one of the historic homes and learned the county was trying to buy it too.
And if you tear down the things that bring this community character, people won't want to come.
We reached out to County Commissioner Dexter McCoy and County Judge KP George. We asked if the plan was to bulldoze these homes to make way for a parking lot. We did not get a direct answer, but were told by Commissioner McCoy, in part, these are important but delicate conversations about meeting the growing needs of our county. We are at the very beginning stages of this process and are evaluating all options.
Told him we will be fighting this.
Meanwhile, the Cinquemanis don't plan to sell and think everyone should be paying attention.
Because it can happen to you. At any point, the county can come in and say, I want your property.
Hope that helped you catch up on this past week and you're ready for the next one. Remember, you can tune into KHOU 11 on air, online via KHOU.com and YouTube, as well as by using our free KHOU 11 Plus app on Roku and Fire TV. Have a great week. We are so glad you're here. Make sure you like and subscribe so we can let you know when we post. Also, check these out.